Here's how the Batman Part 2 can be perfect. First of all, the main villain needs to be the Court of Owls or Hush. Let me explain. First of all, we already know from Matt Reeves himself that the villain of this new Batman movie is not going to be one we've seen in a Batman film before. So we're not going to see the Joker, even though he was teased at the end of Part 1. Characters like Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, all off the table. And the reason the Court of Owls or Hush would be the best villains that we haven't seen in a film before are because they could be the perfect contrast to what we got with the Riddler in the first movie. Because obviously, his entire thing is that he's exposing the corruption of Gotham through very diabolical and demented ways, but he is getting vengeance on all these people that he believed wronged him. The Riddler looks at the Batman as someone that he sees as his equal. He's like, oh yeah, we both work outside the law. We're looking for vengeance. We're trying to stop the wrong happening in this city. We are the same person, Batman. And Bruce realizes that, no, I need to not be this symbol of vengeance and fear anymore. I need to be more. I need to be hope. Well, now in the Batman Part 2, instead of having someone like the Riddler exposing the truth and the corruption going on in Gotham, you could have one of these villains now manipulating the truth and using fear against the citizens of Gotham to control them. The Court of Owls would fit into this theme perfectly because if you don't know, they're this like secret society that have been around since the founding of Gotham City, hundreds of years. You can pretty much view them like the Illuminati that have their hands in pretty much every single thing happening in Gotham. The elections, all the powerful people, all the rich and elite, they're pretty much behind everything. And they also have these talons that go around and pretty much do their dirty work, do these assassinations, kill people off. They'd be the perfect group to kind of undercut all the progression that Gotham City's going through. Like they elected Bella Real, who actually wants to make real change happen in the city. The Court of Owls is not going to allow that to happen. They want to profit off this. They're going to try to corrupt her and the rest of the city and twist the truth of what's really happening. And I also think you could have Hush, aka Thomas Elliot, in the same film. As we know, the first movie had a ton of villains. You had the Penguin, you had Carmine Falcone, obviously the Riddler, and others still in the movie. I think he would be a great secondary side villain in this film because I don't think he's good enough to carry the film on his own. Because Hush could serve as like the anti-Bruce Wayne in this movie. That's kind of what his character is. Like, yes, he's also rich. He grew up childhood friends with Bruce Wayne in some different storylines. They could definitely do that in this movie too. But he stands for the exact opposite of what Bruce Wayne and Batman is trying to do. I think the Court of Owls could use Thomas Elliot, aka Hush, in a way a little bit different than how he's used in the comics to make him a little bit different from the Riddler. And instead, in this version, they could use him both as a Talon, as his Hush persona, going around doing their dirty work. Maybe he's trying to like kidnap the mayor or something in this movie. Maybe he ends up killing Alfred in this film because the Court of Owls are responsible for Alfred's father's death in the comics. They could do a twist on that in this with Alfred dying. But at the same time as you have Thomas Elliot running around as Hush, you could also just have the regular Thomas Elliot using his social status, wealth, and all this influence to kind of influence the things going on in Gotham, push his own narratives. And Hush was already teased in the Batman Part 1, and they give a nice twist on his origin story that honestly makes his hatred towards the Wayne family way more justifiable than what happens in the comics. When the Riddler exposes the truth that Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, actually went to Carmine Falcone to deal with a reporter, the reporter's name is Edmund Elliot. Now that the Riddler has brought this into the spotlight, Thomas Elliot, if you didn't already know that Bruce Wayne's father was responsible for his father's death, now he's going to want to take out all his vengeance on the Wayne family. Again, flipping the idea of now vengeance being used against Bruce in this film, I think this could really work absolutely perfectly. Whether the Court of Owls are actually in the Batman Part 2 or maybe it just more further alluded to that they're kind of the ones behind the scenes pulling the strings, I do think we're getting them in the Batman Part 2 or 3. Even the Penguin TV show had this kind of Easter egg, literally in a courthouse with these owl designs on the wall. Moving on from the villains, the next thing I need to see in this movie is some wintertime snowy Gotham City in this film. The first movie is absolutely stunning because it uses such a limited color palette. Like, it's pretty much everything you see in the movie is red, orange, or just simply black. And it works perfectly within the themes of the film that I was just talking about exposing the truth from the darkness. Give me a whole wintry blue and white aesthetic for the Batman Part 2. Again, the stark contrast would be incredible. I genuinely think the Gotham City we see in the first movie is the best looking Gotham ever in a Batman film. The only one that comes very close is Tim Burton's, obviously, in Batman Returns, especially, again, because we go into the whole snowy aesthetic there. Gotham is basically a character in this movie. The city feels so alive. Flipping this from like Halloween and all this dark orange and red to now going to like Christmas with the snow would be absolutely peak. Third point might be a little bit controversial, but I do not want any characters learning about Bruce Wayne's identity in the Batman Part 2. One of my favorite things about the first film is that he never tells anybody. Like this scene with Selina Kyle and pretty much every other Batman film that exists, this would be the scene where he's like saying, oh yeah, I'm Bruce Wayne, or at least dropping some very obvious hint that tells her like, oh, that's who I am. It does feel like pretty much every Batman movie has at least one scene where he's telling someone, whether it's Gordon or the love interest of the film, or just some random person on the street, they're finding out about Bruce Wayne. But I love that this version of the character, he's early on in his Batman career, and he is truly willing to sacrifice everything. Like, at the end of this, he turns down going to Bloodhaven with Catwoman. He's like, no, I'm staying here, I'm spoken for, I'm Batman, I'm not Bruce Wayne even. And I feel like this could be even more interesting if he does start leaning more into like the playboy socialite Bruce Wayne persona, realizing like, oh, this can be a huge advantage. I can learn a lot more stuff that I can use to my advantage when I'm actually being Batman, but still seeing him keep these lives completely separate, turning down like love and real life opportunities because he knows his burden of being Batman would be incredible. Especially if they do end up killing off Alfred, like I said earlier. Alfred in the first movie pretty much serves as the only connection that Bruce has to the rest of his family. If he gets killed off, that will really mean Bruce is all alone and he is purely just Batman now. He won't feel like he is a Wayne. And that leads me into my next point, is that I do not want Robin introduced in this movie. Now, I do think it could be very interesting in the Batman Part 3, especially if they kind of follow what I'm talking about here, where Bruce truly is all alone, feels like he has no family anymore. And then in the Batman Part 3, he kind of learns like, oh wait, I can accept family, I can care for this kid, I can help him out. And I really don't think there's going to be any problem fitting Robin into the dark and grounded theme of this universe. Like, if you can make a man running around dressed up as a bat work, I'm sorry, you can make Robin work. He's not supernatural, or at least most version of the characters aren't. I also definitely want some brand new side villains and characters introduced in this film. Like I said, Carmine Falcone and the Penguin being like side villains in the film are super important to the first movie. And we do know that Colin Farrell will be returning for the Batman Part 2, and it seems like it's going to be a similar role. Like he said, his parts aren't that long, which honestly I'm okay with. Fortunately, Matt Reeves has confirmed that Sophia Falcone will not be in the sequel. I think she could have been great again in a very limited role. But I do think seeing some characters, like maybe you just see Dr. Crane before he becomes Scarecrow, or at least as exposed to be Scarecrow, could be really cool. And again, he's a doctor in the psychiatric ward, and Thomas Elliot, aka Hush, in the comics at least, is a surgeon. You could definitely see these two kind of being friends, at least introducing him, building out this world further. And I know Matt Reeves said the villain isn't going to be someone we've seen in the movie before, but I don't think he's counting like these side characters and stuff. As I do think it's very likely that we do revisit the Riddler or Joker, even if they're both still in prison in this movie. Like, even the Batman Part 1 had like a 5-minute cutscene where Batman goes to Joker, talks to him, and gets like advice pretty much for how to deal with the Riddler. Honestly, I'd kind of be okay if the Riddler and Joker kind of just serve like minor 5 minutes or less of screen time roles in the Batman Part 2 or 3 and never are the main villain, especially Joker. We've had enough of this character, and I know he's the most iconic Batman villain, but I'm sorry, we don't need him in this trilogy. The next point is that I need this to be another 3-hour-long movie at least, because yes, obviously a movie should only be as long as the script requires. You don't want them like dragging things out just to inflate the runtime. But I kind of don't care when it comes to this film. It has been 3 years since the Batman Part 1, and he just finished the script right now. If this thing is not a beefy script, give me like a 3-hour, 20-minute Batman movie. I'm not going to complain. But what might be my most controversial take on this movie, and I don't think it's a requirement for the film, but I'm going to say I'm okay if Matt Reeves wants to introduce some more fantastical, supernatural elements into this movie. Like, even if it's just something small, like Bruce having more advanced gadgets, or something like the Batwing, that's not something realistic or super grounded, but it's also not incredibly far-fetched. I'm okay with that. All I'm saying is that it shouldn't be something that holds back Matt Reeves. If there's some element or character from the comics he wants to add in this movie, he shouldn't be like, oh no, I have the first one so grounded and realistic I can't do it. Like the Dark Knight trilogy does this perfectly. They are very grounded movies, but you still got Scarecrow with his fear toxin that's kind of pushing it a little bit. You got Bane in the third film. Like, even the first movie, in the very final fight, you got Batman injecting himself with some like comically green venom that's probably the Bane venom. That doesn't really fit in with all the other gadgets and technology we see in the movie, but again, it's just realistic enough that we can all buy in and be like, oh yeah, he just got super adrenaline he just shot himself up with. So something like that I think could work. If you made it this far, drop a like in the video and let me know in the comments below one thing you want to see happen in the Batman Part 2. If you want to see all my other DC videos, click the playlist above my head, and thank you for watching.